Said it. My favorite build of all time was my 30 charge Discharge Slayer back in Crucible League. It was so good that it compelled me to make my first ever build showcase video. You can go back and watch it, it's pretty awful, but it's still there. That build has long since been patched out and has been unplayable for years. That is, till now. The recent return of the Ancestors Alternate Ascendancies event with the new Ascendancy tattoos actually enables this build again, although in a lesser form. Now this build only works in this short event league that is already half over, so you can't really copy it. It's more of a showcase if anything. Also, since this league is small and the market is sparse, I had to go very low budget. I will at the end try to theorize a standard viable version though. So from the top, Discharge is a spell that consumes all of your charges to do damage in an area. It gains base damage and AoE for each charge. This has a 2-second cooldown. The main puzzle with Discharge is getting a lot of maximum charges as well as generating them in the 2-second window. The main strategy for getting a lot of charges is through power charge stacking. Badge of the Brotherhood Amulet makes maximum frenzy charges equal to power charges. Slayer's Masterful Form node makes endurance charges equal to maximum frenzy charges. This is the main way to get a lot of every charge, but it does lock us to Slayer. The current event's Ascendancy tattoos change this and lets us put Masterful Form on anyone. For this event I go Wild Speaker for its charge generation. So here is an exhaustive list of every source of max power charges. You have 3 charges baseline, you get 3 more from the tree notes, 1 from the Wild Speaker Ascendancy, 1 from a power charge tattoo exclusive to Trial of the Ancestors event, 2 from the 2 Void Battery wands we're using, 1 from a Warlord helmet, a potential extra +1 if you can corrupt that helmet to another +1 power charge, but it is very rare and I couldn't do it. A Resonating Shrine Scrims of the Desiccated belt can give 1 charge, but it's not worth the opportunity cost in my mind, and I don't think that belt's going to live for next league. 1 from a Bound by Destiny jewel by having 6 Crusader items. This involves having to chance a Void Battery with Crusader influence. I am still working on this part. And potentially 2 more from Precursor Emblem rings. These are stupidly expensive in a normal league, and impossible in this one. That would also mean having to chance more uniques, making Bound by Destiny even harder to meet. This leaves me with 11 of each charge, and potentially if I got them all I could get up to 15. Now to generate them, we're using the Wild Speaker Alt Ascendancy. Fearful Symmetry has the line, gain your maximum frenzy charges and power charges when you gain Cat Stealth. This is the exact same line found on Pharaoh's Fur. Pharaoh's Fur has a replica version that has the line, gain maximum endurance charges and frenzy charges when you get Cat's agility. With both of these we get all our charges by cycling Aspect of Cat. Aspect of Cat is a alternating buff for crit rate and cast speed, but this doesn't matter, we just want it to cycle. The Ascendancy node we replace is the one before this that gives us Aspect of Cat and no reservation. No reservation is on Replica's Pharaoh's Fur, so it's redundant, and Aspect of Cat isn't that good because it can't be supported by support gems. By putting Aspect of Cat on an item, we can set support with less duration and Swift Affliction to make the duration very small. I also just learned this build that Swift Affliction works on anything with a duration tag. This gives them a 0.93 second and a 1.83 second duration on the cat buffs. This is below 2 seconds, so not every discharge will be at full power, if you try to use them as soon as possible. Theoretically, you can make it go below 2 seconds by using a reduced duration time class, but this makes it even harder to hit the Bound by Destiny 6 Crusader items. You would have to chance a time class. As well as it also makes resists even harder to meet. We're already kinda starved. I deal with the dead time by using a secondary skill of Wave of Conviction of Tarthus. This is a okay skill that scales decently with reduced duration. This is good when charges are low or we lost a cooldown due to stuns. All the reduced duration makes Lightning Warp a very good mobility skill. This is the first time I'm using it and I am sold on it. As for the rest of the Sensei, it's mostly up to you. Scourge of the Wilds gives minion damage, affects you, and some dex scaling. Generic increase is always good, but power charge stacking already gets tons of it. This build has over 1000% increased damage, so it's not as effective as you think it is. The last note I took is Primal Instincts, 100% suppress chance but less suppression damage reduction. I then took Acrobatics Keystone to convert it all into Spell Dodge, so there is no penalty. And that's about it for the build, but I have to say this is one of the most PoB warrior builds I've ever made. The maximum damage is high, but there are so many conditions going on that need to be met for it to work. Here's the obvious problem. All of our damage scales have power charges, but only one of our cycles gives power charges. Look what happens to the PoB damage when I don't have power charges. The old Slayer build used to also be able to shock consistently, and cap it, and even overcap it. But this build barely shocks. I uninvested from max shock because I wasn't even hitting close to the normal cap. I also support Discharge's Trinity, but the only way you get Trinity is to hit with it, but by the time I'm ready to discharge again, Trinity already half expired. More than likely this max hit is not happening. There will be a lot of times when you do so little damage it felt like the spell missed. There is also a really annoying issue with stuns. Discharge is a cooldown skill with a longish cast time, but you don't really want to invest in cast rate. It's also a Nova around you, so you generally want to be in the middle of a pack. So what often happens is that you lightning warp into a pack, discharge, but before it goes off, you get hit and stunned out of it, consuming the cooldown. Second wind is mandatory for the skill to feel good because of this, but even then, it's very common to get both of your cooldowns stunned out of. This either leads to instant death or a wave of convictions to hopefully not die and stall out for a cooldown. Defenses have the common evasion problem, where you're either immortal or one-shot and nothing in between. It's pretty frustrating. There's also a lot of enemy and map mod conflicts. Enemies steal charges and less cooldown map mobs are unplayable. The giant temporal bubble rare mobs are very annoying to deal with. If you were inside that, your cooldowns basically don't progress at all. And blue altars have a bunch of mods that debuff you scaling off of how many charges you have. If you click any of them, you're basically gimped for that map. This build is not Alkengo friendly at all. So I would rate this probably 7 out of 10. It doesn't live up to the 30 charge Discharge Legacy, but it does have roughly the same playstyle. I don't think Discharge would ever return to that form, unless we get a new source of charge generation. It also doesn't help that it would be impossible to play after this event, but the full screen explosions are pretty satisfying. Now I did promise a standard viable version of this build. I found from playing that you really don't need 30 charges. That's more of a meme than anything else. Just having 2 types makes it a whole lot easier to build. I made this rough PoB using the gear from this character, so it's not that great, but it is still functional. This should work on any Ascendancy with a power charge node, or one that can steal it with Forbiddens. I used an Occultist for my example. With the Lycia bloodline, we could convert Discharge into 2/3 chaos damage, and then use the Occultist chaos scaling. Charges would be just power and frenzy, and we would generate it with a normal Pharaoh's Fur. Aspect of Cat with less duration, Swift Affliction, and a 19% reduced duration time clasp gets us a cycle under 2 seconds. This does about the same damage as this build and the same AoE. There's also less variables to deal with. Power charges are always up, so that's not an issue anymore. There's also no need to deal with Trinity or shocks. I do worry about the lack of freeze. Discharge's big hits usually means everything is frozen, but that won't happen when we convert it. I also didn't do anything for defenses. I would look into that. ES looks like it could work fine. But you don't have to do it this way. I do think if you can get the Forbiddens for the power charge, then Elementalist is probably better. It's actually rather flexible. This is definitely not a starter though. Trying to force this build as a starter in this event league was a massive pain. But that's about all for this one. I have to say though, Toda did not age well at all. The sad part is that it absolutely could have if they just fixed the bugs and gave it a balance patch. Oh well, I guess PoE 2 will fix it. Surely.